Homemaking is not how our ancestors did things. That's a pretty big claim, especially when the homemaking community tells us that this is how their grandma did things. I mean, okay, they're not lying. Their grandma did practice homemaking, but there are so many reasons why it wasn't toxic for their generation, which I'll get to in a bit. But what if homemaking, at least the way we've done it in the last couple of centuries, was simply a result of our family's migration, an instinctual survival mechanism to keep our family alive? What we learned from other cultures is that homemaking was something that was multi-generational. We were never expected to raise a family, take care of all the meals, the home, and the work. We also weren't meant to have this much stuff or live such a busy life. So no wonder we are burned out and tired from homemaking. As a homemaker and stay-at-home mom myself, this is what had me questioning what was most important to me. So a few months ago, I came to this epiphany that I was making homemaking an idol. I was idolizing it and making it into this glorified, beautiful thing. And I had this expectation that was up here, unreachable. And I remember journaling, and I still have the entry where I wrote, "Homemaking has become toxic for me." And those words have hung so close to my heart ever since. And I've really began shaping and reshaping what homemaking means and what it needs to be for me to thrive. Because yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm a homemaker, right? Like I take care of the home essentially, but we were never meant to take care of this home, take care of the children, make all the meals and work, because most of us moms are doing something on the side, whether it be, selling extra sourdough or having a small Etsy shop or whatever. Like we all have something we are doing. Add homeschooling to your list. Like there is so many hats that we're making, and to then feel the pressure to show up and to be like these homemakers that we're seeing either here online or, just the pictures that we see on Pinterest, the dreams that we've made up in our minds. And what we've forgotten is that this was actually not how things were intended. And it was through a conversation that I was having with my grandfather, which I talk more about this conversation in the podcast episode, Old-Fashioned Parenting Habits That We Must Bring Back. If you want to watch that, I'll link it. But I found that my grandfather really brought this understanding to me that when we came over here from, I say when our ancestors came over here from whatever countries they came from, they left their families behind. They left their culture, their community. And so they came here and they had a ton more responsibility on their plate. They had a lot more that they were dealing with, a lot more that they were having to handle because they were alone. You think about even the people who then began to have families, but then they started to migrate west, right, through the coal mining and all of that. They started to lose more and more of that community that was needed. And it's so rare here in the US to find a family still like a community where we are helping each other out, where it's a very much a give and a take on all parts. But there was so much more of this idea that kids were raised by a literal village. Like they were raised by their grandparents, by their aunts, by their, uncles. It was a collective thing that everybody did together to raise a child. It wasn't just the mother's responsibility. And so not only are we as stay-at-home moms raising our children, we're teaching them, we're showing them how to be an adult. Now we're also adding the task of homemaking, right? Imagine in those first 2 years back in the hunt-gatherer society, or, I guess time frame, they would have been nursing this child, around the clock, but they were also then going out and working. Well, who was watching the kids when they were working? They had this community, so grandma would be there watching, and the child felt safe because they knew grandma, because grandma was always there. And so this was very much how things were intended to be. But what we have to remember is that's not the way things are today. And so how do we thrive today? How do we work through not having what we were intended to have, right? Because the reality is we can't go ask our parents, or I highly doubt many of us have our grandparents left to take care of our kids, but we couldn't ask all these generations to stop living the way they're living because it's necessary for them right now. Prices of things are going up. It's just not as easy to just be able to step back into that way of life, especially now. I feel like everybody's moving all over. Myself, I moved away from my family. We're on opposite ends of the country. So I can't just, hop over to my mom's house when I'm having a hard day and have her watch the kids for a couple hours. I actually have to learn how to handle all of that. And so to add the pressures of homemaking, which for me was doing things like I felt like I needed to make all my kids' snacks from scratch. I needed to make all of the meals from scratch. I needed to make the laundry detergent and do the cloth diapering and have the garden and all the things, which I would love. In an ideal world, I would love. But can I evaluate and can I be realistic about this time frame right now? And can I say, am I able to do this? Ask myself that question. Am I able to handle what this is? And a big one for me was go back to cloth diapering. When I first started cloth diapering, I had one child, and it was really easy to do an extra load of laundry here and there, right? Baby number 2, it did get a little bit more complex, but I'm honestly thinking it really wasn't that hard to keep up on it. Yes, there were times and seasons where it would start to build up, but imagine in those times and seasons, instead of being stuck on cloth diapering, if I acknowledged and said, yeah, this season right now, we are busy. My husband's working, I'm trying to work, and to eliminate just the mental load, which would free up some space for me to be able to do the most important thing, which is to parent my children and to be there fully, lovingly, patiently, fully regulated for my kids. If that's my most important thing, I need to eliminate some of these things. My favorite example here on my channel is paper plates. If you know you're going to have a really busy weekend, plan to do paper plates. You have to kind of do the things. Right now, I'm in a season where I would love to have, I, for the longest time, had those reusable plastic baggies, and I loved them for a lot of reasons. You could reuse them a lot of times and all the things. But the washing process, you guys, if you guys know what I'm talking about, comment below and be like, yes, I can't stand those the reusable ones because they're so hard to wash. And if you have some that you love and you can put soup and stuff in them and they wash easily, please comment them below because I need them. But at this time, I'm I need to prioritize. I'm working a little bit more, so I do need to use these plastic bags. And when the time comes where my work is steady and consistent and I have consistent work time and I'm able to have a little bit more time to do the baggies, I will do it. Another example that I'm thinking of is sourdough. I love making sourdough. I make sourdough almost weekly, but I wish I could go back to those seasons when I was really busy with 2 under 2 and my husband was working a lot and I was stressing myself out by staying up till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night trying to do 6 loaves of sourdough when I could have just said, hey, this week we are just going to buy bread. I wish I gave myself that permission and that ability to do something else per the season I was in, instead of saying, but this mom over here is doing it. And I think we forget that there are lives going on outside of the camera. And I've learned, like, here on YouTube, I love like watching YouTubers and how they explain that they like are able to do YouTube while being a full-time mom. And so many of them will tell you like they either have a nanny or they have like an aunt or a cousin that comes and watches their kids for a few hours every week. Like, some people have house cleaners. And like, I will tell you right now, as the time I'm recording this, my kids are right outside the door, which I wish you could see. I have like 87 notes here. I've had to stop this video like 4 times because my daughter keeps coming up to ask me questions. And it's not simple. It's not like I'm able to just be here and do this, this, like, I'm carving out little teeny tiny moments and times, when I can work. I'm working in between my husband's schedule and my mother-in-law, and when they can potentially take the kids because they're working a full-time job, yeah. So all of that to say, like, I think that we forget that behind the camera is a life, and there is a lot of components that go into it. And if you're like me, you're in a season where you don't have consistent help. You can't pay for, a babysitter or someone to watch your kids so you can, get things done. Your husband doesn't work from home. Like, mine doesn't work from home. Like, my husband works 25 minutes away, so it's a 25-minute there and back drive, and he has to be there early, and typically he's leaving a little bit late because of, this client needed this, and, this happened, and it's just always something. And so it's like, I think we forget that there are people who've been blessed here on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, and they have help. They have people that are helping them to be able to do all these things. And let's also account like how old the kiddos are. Like, my kiddos were really, really little when I was idolizing homemaking, and it just wasn't as easy, I know, and I have, people, friends that have kids that are older, and those kids are a lot more helpful. They're doing things like chores. Like, they're the ones that do the dishes. Mom, like, never does the dishes. Well, of course she's going to have more time for doing sourdough and making, sauerkraut from home, and, maybe sewing or fixing up, a little girl's dress instead of buying a new one. Like, it's easier to do those things when you have that time and that capacity, and it's all based on our season of life. And I think we need to remember that. And I think that that's why homemaking can, in the culture that we live in right now, it can be so toxic, because 1, it's not the way it was intended. 2, we have so much responsibility and mental headspace. And I think that we just need to give ourselves some grace and say, yeah, I'm going to do what I can in this season. And also, if it is really important to me to make sourdough, maybe this week I'm going to do paper plates, so I cut down on dishes, finding ways to navigate this, to make time for what's really important, and also to give into maybe some of the things that aren't so important, that would help to make life a little bit easier. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this week's video. If you have any questions on homemaking, how to get things done, how to navigate this idea of replacements, maybe something like paper plates so that way you can do more sourdough, make sure that you comment them below. So I want to thank you for watching today's video. If you have any questions about homemaking, make sure that you comment them below. And if you have a mom friend who's a homemaker and you feel like this video would encourage her, I would encourage you to share this with her, send it to her, and just let her know that she's doing amazing, and she doesn't need to do any more than what she's doing. She's just amazing. We'll just put it that way. I sometimes just text my friends and I'm just like, you're doing a great job. And this video is an awesome way to do that. So if you like this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Alrighty guys, I will see you in the next video.